What is Bookshare? This tutorial will provide a brief introduction to Bookshare, the world's largest online library of accessible ebooks for people with print disabilities. To learn more about who can join Bookshare, refer to the tutorial, Who is eligible for Bookshare. Bookshare's collection contains many thousands of books, including textbooks and reading books, plus more than 270 newspapers and magazines. More than 2,000 books are added to Bookshare each month. Members can download these books and publications in a variety of accessible formats. The specific format that the member downloads will depend on how they will ultimately enjoy the book. Members can use a wide range of commercially available products to read Bookshare materials. These include hardware devices and software applications. In addition, once logged into their Bookshare accounts, members can download free reader What is Bookshare? This tutorial will provide a brief introduction to Bookshare, the world's largest online library of accessible ebooks for people with print disabilities. To learn more about who can join Bookshare, refer to the tutorial, Who is eligible for Bookshare. Bookshare's collection contains many thousands of books, including textbooks and reading books, plus more than 270 newspapers and magazines. More than 2,000 books are added to Bookshare each month. Members can download these books and publications in a variety of accessible formats. The specific format that the member downloads will depend on how they will ultimately enjoy the book. Members can use a wide range of commercially available products to read Bookshare materials. These include hardware devices and software applications. In addition, once logged into their Bookshare accounts, members can download free reader software and high-quality voices to use when reading Bookshare books and publications, including a web-based reader. Members can also enjoy Bookshare books on their mobile devices, including Apple devices such as iPads, iPod Touches, and iPhones, and Android phones and tablets. Bookshare is funded by an award from the Office of Special Education Programs of the U.S. Department of Education. Because of this funding, all qualified U.S. students can use Bookshare at no cost. Anyone with a qualifying print disability who is not a student can also join Bookshare for a nominal annual fee. Because Bookshare is a website, it's available to members 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To learn more about Bookshare, visit the Bookshare website, the Bookshare channel on YouTube, and Bookshare on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest.
Quality education is a fundamental right of every Filipino. For the Department of Education, inclusive education ensures that quality education is within reach for anyone who wants to learn. But what does inclusive education mean? Inclusive education means everyone who wants to learn is welcome. They are supported to learn, whoever they are, wherever they are, and whatever their abilities and learning needs are. Inclusive education needs to be set in place in all the dimensions of education: curriculum, learning delivery, learning resources, educational assessment, safe learning environment, facilities, teacher professional development, partnership for inclusive education, school leadership and management, and governance support. These ensure that inclusive education is experienced by the learner. The learner, regardless of gender, abilities, culture, age, ethnicity, social background, religious beliefs, and other characteristics, is welcomed and supported to learn through all dimensions. The K-12 curriculum ensures that learning standards and competencies can be related to local culture, history, and the day-to-day reality of learners. This makes lessons relevant to the learners and easy to understand. The perspective of inclusive education is at the core of the K-12 curriculum, which is demonstrated through the following. Mother tongue-based multilingual education. Children feel encouraged when they express themselves in the language that they know. This helps build their confidence too. They are confident, learn better and faster when they are first taught in a language they already understand. Their various mother tongue languages can be the starting point for learning in the early grades. Responding to the specific needs of groups of learners is also part of inclusive education, thus the various programs being offered by the department. The Special Education Program. This program ensures that schools welcome learners with disabilities and encourages their participation with learners at the same grade level in school as appropriate. This includes specific learning support in terms of teaching modality, equipment, learning environment, and facilities. The Madrasa Education Program. DepEd recognizes the need of Muslim learners for additional support in strengthening their moral and spiritual fiber, and this is addressed through the Arabic language and Islamic values education, or live classes facilitated by teachers trained for this. The Indigenous Peoples Education Program. The IP Education Program ensures that the indigenous knowledge systems and practices of IP learners and their belief systems are respected. It seeks to inculcate among all DepEd personnel culture sensitivity, appropriateness when working among IP communities and learners. Flexible learning options are designed for learners whose schedules are different from most, with classes held when convenient with them. Flexible learning can take place in or outside the school, depending on what is best for the learners. The two main categories of FLOs are alternative delivery modes and alternative learning system. Tracks and strands in senior high school. Students have more options to choose from in preparation for their future, whether it be colegio, trabajo, or negosyo. They can choose the academic track, or the technical vocational livelihood track, take the sports track, or get into arts and design track. Programs for the gifted and talented. Similarly, learners who are exceptionally gifted and talented are given opportunities, encouragement, and support in the development of their gifts or talents through programs to keep them challenged and motivated. Special curricular programs are in place to support learners who show specialized skills and interests in science, technology and engineering, sports, arts, foreign language, technical vocational education, and journalism. And in an inclusive education setting, the uniqueness of learners' abilities, knowledge, learning styles, study habits, and multiple intelligences are considered in lesson delivery. Lessons are delivered in creative ways through the use of technology, interactive activities, songs, poems, stories, and illustrations. Teaching and learning materials, both text and non-text, are made available and used as appropriate to the learners. These should help learners learn in what they see, what they write out, what they hear, and what they can do. An inclusive environment means buildings, classrooms, canteen, library, clinic, toilets, play areas, and all other school facilities are available, accessible, and fit for various learners at all levels. The school is also safe and friendly, with an atmosphere of community understanding that is conducive for learning. Learning assessments are inclusive when learners' performance are measured in many ways. It provides opportunities for learners to share and practice what they have learned in creative ways. Teachers receive appropriate and adequate training to enable them to foster an inclusive learning environment. Inclusive education can be made possible through the involvement of parents, caregivers, the immediate community, and civil society organizations. Inclusive education can only happen when all of us, from all different sectors, work for its accomplishment. School leadership is a powerful catalyst in implementing inclusive education. The department shall take the necessary steps to support personnel and shall prepare the needed resources to enable all public schools to be implementers of inclusive education. So why do we need inclusive education? So that all Filipinos learn skills for life and contribute to the nation. No learners left behind. This is what inclusive education is all about.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our afternoon session on bridging the gap and beyond the new normal in the education of learners with disability through technology. This is your officer of the day, Owen Emilambiling, serving you. I learned that you have had an equally interesting activity this morning on the development of accessible learning materials for BI through Microsoft Office. And this afternoon, we prepare equally engaging sessions for you. So don't lose hope, stay motivated as we enjoy the two remaining sessions this afternoon. But prior to that, let me introduce first our first speaker. Our first speaker is from Bookshare, USA. Sandali, kuya, ba't hindi ko ma-minimize? She is our country representative in the Bookshare. And when I checked over the internet, the meaning of her name, in our Christian Bible or Catholic Bible, her name means pure or holy. Ladies and gentlemen, you are more than honored and privileged to have our resource person in the person of Miss Maria Agnes or Aji J. Angeles to share her topics on programs and services of Bookshare, an online accessible library for persons with print disability. Join me in welcoming Miss Aji Angeles.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share our work in Bookshare here in the inclusion workshop of the Department of Education. Allow me to share my screen on what Bookshare Bookshare is all about. Bookshare essentially was founded 25 years ago by a rocket scientist who used technology and developed it for the marginalized sectors of society in the United States. His name is Jim Fruchterman, and for the past 25 years, as you will know from the previous video, Bookshare has been upgraded to what it is today. From a starting folio of 300 books, we have now close to 900,000 books in our collection. And we are globally present in the 6 continents of the world, with members numbering to over 500,000, the largest in Asia being in India. So we are one with you in the inclusion and accessibility advocacy. And this has been the mission of Bookshare, to be a technology used for social good. And one of the many products or divisions projects developed by Benetech, which is the mother company, is Bookshare. In our definition in Bookshare, persons with disabilities include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, which interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others, as defined by the UNCRPD provisions. So we use international provisions in defining all the criteria by which we extend the service to our visually impaired, print disabled community members. What are the existing barriers that we see around us? We have the environmental barriers, we have the physical and information barriers, we have, which does affect the mobility and opportunity for our members who are visually impaired. As such, they also have limited network potential and contacts that would enable them to carry on through life. We have institutional barriers outside of the different types of schools. We have religious organizations. We have academic university organizations, which do not necessarily accept print disabled students. And this limits the opportunity of our community members to be able to fulfill their dreams in their lives. We also have government laws highlighted this by COVID, especially ito pong 2020, from ECQ to MECQ to GCQ, there were a lot of restrictions. And most of our members, our PWDs, were isolated together with the seniors because of their compromised condition. So it made life more difficult for each and every one of them. Going back to health-related concerns, therefore, all these limitations compound their difficulty for movement and access to information. Unlike before, when we can do face-to-face, it was so easy. It was so easy also to group with friends and gain more knowledge on what's happening all around you. But such is no longer the case with what has happened with the pandemic. There are also attitudinal barriers. This one we would like to raise because some parents, while our learners are very young, are overprotective. Okay, when they're overprotective, the kids are kept in the house, they don't allow them to go out, then this limits the ability, obviously, of the child to get as much information and get engaged with others. And psychologically, the behavior gets affected, especially in trying to get information. They get information only from what is given to them by the parents. And if the parents are overprotective, all the more the learning resource or information resource of the child becomes so limited. That is why it has to be inclusive, it has to be a combination of support. If one segment is weak, then the other must pull forward, and that is the role of the Department of Education and all learning institutions who support education of our young children and students. Another barrier is economics. The lower you are in the economic strata, we have difficulty also in getting access to information, in using infrastructure, and so forth and so on. What are the effects of a barrier-free, inclusive society? First is, of course, access to education. Next is access to high-value employment. Because we are not just here to get education for the sake of it, because we have a dream of a better future, to be a better person, to grow until we are in our most senior years and to achieve our dreams. Access to justice, okay, because you're able to understand the laws, therefore you are protected. You improve as well your social participation and access to the various services that may be made available in the system. Human rights is also promoted and protected. And at the very end of the day, independent living citizens are less burdened to government. Let me cite an example. If we had 1 million PWD population in the Philippines, and 50% are visually impaired, say 500,000, and 200,000 are legally blind but independent, the 200,000 population, assuming they are self-employed or employed at a minimum wage spend of say 500 pesos per day, that means a 100 million contribution to gross domestic product or revenue sales that moves around, contributing to the growth of the economy. So if you compare it to what you need to build today, the investment is really so small if we provide accessible learning resources in preparation for the future of our learners with disabilities. It is our role to ensure we develop independent learners for the country to bring about healthy, peaceful, and progressive society. Let me share with you a successful and inspiring inclusion story of Enable India. To date, they have, despite the pandemic, they have 185 open jobs for persons with disabilities. And you will see here po, the types of positions that are open. Okay, special education. We have jobs for a power company, assistant engineers who can be blind or orthopedically disabled, assistant engineers, also electrical engineers. They have 145 directorate education jobs for persons with disabilities and a deputy manager included here. They have vacancies in the Bureau of Indian Standards. Okay? Lahat po ng ito, dito sa power company, super dami. Lahat po ng ito are high-paying jobs. Okay? They would be earning no less than 1,000 US dollars for some of these jobs. And the list goes on, especially in the technology area. Bookshare forms a part of the backbone of the learning resource for the candidates who are given employability training as an intervention before they join the job market. In other words, bago po sumampa sa workforce, kailangan may intervention itong malaking NGO na to para i-retrain yung mga kabataan, okay? So that they know how to speak English, they know technology from the books, halos parang nagmamaster sila ulit. Okay. But of late, with the occasion of the pandemic, they are now bringing down these learnings to the college and senior level of the various schools in the country. So in our case too, we can do the same, upgrade our students, but why should it be that they get their resources much later in their life, whereas they can do it earlier in their lives, okay? Which is very important that is why the role of DepEd is so important, because dito natin tinatanim yung seeds, yung hilig ng bata magbasa, yung hilig mag-explore ng mundo through reading, okay? And that is where Bookshare supports the community as a resource for learning. Because number one, learning for those children who are print disabled is customized. Later, I will show you the different ways by which they are able to read. This is, it says here 700,000 books. To date of latest count, we have already 875,000 books. And they can read anywhere on their PC, their laptop, their tablets, their phones, and at a lowest cost because it's cloud-based. Okay? Wala akong libro sa bahay. Okay? Everything is on the phone or on a tablet. Why is it also low cost? Because it does not, when you are on a Bookshare,